So what are we doing today?
Today we're going to do the introduction video first, and then we're gonna take care of some business after that.
All right, and what's an average day for you like?
Average day, wake up, check the market, put on CNBC, trade if I have to make any trades, check on my businesses, and then hang out with the fiance, put on Netflix, go to sleep.
All right, and for the future of FFM, do you think you're going to do more posts like this, or are you going to stick to presentations again?
Most videos probably presentations. Keep it to the research. It's not really about me, more about just the content. So probably stick to presentations. Let's do this. Oh, are you still filming?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's do this. Let's go! Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to go over a bit of my background and answer the question that has come up in the comments a few times: how I got to where I am and what I do. To start, my name's Alexander. I'm 28 years old. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I watched my family build businesses across different industries, and it was always clear to me that I wanted to work for myself and build my own success. On my journey, two things became very apparent. First, I would need to accumulate capital. Second, I was going to fail a lot. As a teenager, I hustled a lot. I delivered pizzas, I organized events, I invested the little cash I made in stocks. I first learned about stocks when I was 13, and I purchased my first stock around 15 years old. I made an account with my dad at the time, so it was pretty much me just learning from him. I was always fascinated with the markets, and I'd watch that single share I bought moving up and down just a few cents, and it would blow my mind that I would be able to make money without actually physically doing any work. It sounded too good to be true. And of course, it did turn out that it was too good to be true, at least somewhat. I realized quickly that picking the correct stocks would involve work. I would have to learn how to value a stock and how to compare stocks in the same industries. And from that point forward, I continued to expand my knowledge on the markets as much as I could. So, the more research I did, the more stocks I wanted to buy, the deeper I dug into those stocks, the more of each stock I wanted to buy shares. So I just wanted to buy more and more shares. Now, the problem for me at the time was, and I'm sure a lot of you are going through this right now, is the more stock you want to buy, you need to have cash. So you need to have more money. And to sell a stock, you already own, that's not great either. You don't want to sell stocks to have to buy stocks. And I was hooked. So I realized I had to build cash flow. And I had to do it from a physical business to satisfy the needs I had and to invest in more stocks. So this is where failure kind of kicked in for me. A lot of the failure affects different people in different ways. I find that failure affects people really in two ways. One, they give up, or two, they move forward and they push on. So I taught myself different skills. I enjoyed building businesses in different industries, and I looked for cash flow. I learned how to produce and engineer music. I even built a recording studio with a partner at the time when we were recording that music. I started a clothing line. I even spent months going into the city, picking fabrics, having samples made, and doing small local production. I built my own websites, I sold products online, I even opened a burger restaurant in senior year of high school with two of my friends. Each of those stories basically are very long and we could go into the detail, but rather than that, the point is I've done a lot of different things to get to this point. And in that journey, I failed a few times too. Some of the things worked, some didn't. Now, the thing I learned most in the failure was that you have to cut your losses quick. When something doesn't work, if you hold on to it, it's only going to keep you from moving forward to the next thing that has the potential to work. Now, this is true in physical businesses as well as in stocks. When I'm wrong about something, especially a stock, I cut my loss and I move to the next one quickly. As of today, I still have some of the businesses I started many years ago, and I don't want to reveal too much about the locations and which ones do what, but I'll break down one of my locations without giving the info on that specific location. I opened it in 2015. It has revenue in 2020 of about $1 million. Profits after all expenses were around $300K. Having businesses like that is key to give cash flow that allows me to pay my bills, it allows me to continue to invest in the markets, and I don't have to sell any stocks to pay my bills or to buy a new stock. I don't like to sell stocks to pay bills because I understand the power of compounding and I want to maximize its benefit. If you don't have a business or a job that provides you cash flow to live off of and invest, that would be my first recommendation. Find something to do to make some cash flow to pay your bills so that you can not take money out of your account when you're investing. Now, over the past few years, majority of my income does come from the stock market. I pay my bills through real estate and other businesses I have, but I allow all my income from the stock market to remain in those brokerage accounts so they can keep compounding. Now, I've been lucky that the past few years have been very successful for me in the public markets, and in the last 2 years, I've taken that journey with me into the private equity space, and I started investing in private companies as an angel investor. In the short term investing in private companies, I've done about 50 deals. This is about the last 2 years. I invested in big names like SpaceX, Impossible Foods, Virgin Voyages. I've also invested in smaller companies like CafeX, Tala, and Public. I was lucky that basically a lot of these investments have done well so far. A few of them have even went public. So Unity, SoFi, Palantir, they've all made the transition to public companies, which led to nice paydays for me in the form of their stock appreciating. I was investors in all those companies before they were in the public markets. As far as some of my market returns, I'm going to give you some metrics. In the last year, I made 95.74% versus the S&P 500, which did 31.74%. In the last 2 years, my count's up 660%, where the S&P 500 is up 51% or so. In the last 3 years, I have a return of 796.37%, and the S&P 500 is up about 57%. My goal has always been to beat the market, and I won't invest in anything that I don't think it will give me a minimum investment of 20% return per year for at least the next 2 to 3 years. I also look to invest in high growth areas, and I target disruption more than anything else. I think it's important to have an edge. So find stocks that basically you know something about that other people don't know. And when I say that it's not public knowledge, it's they don't believe it to be true yet. Some quick examples would be when the iPhone came out. It was clear to me when the iPhone came out that it was going to be the default phone for everyone. But the truth is there were so many people that still thought keyboards were here to stay. And another example of this is basically Tesla. When I got in the first Tesla I ever drove, it was clear to me that EVs were here to stay. But most people today still don't believe in EVs, or if they do, they don't believe Tesla's going to stay the leader. They always say competition is coming. So when I got my Tesla, and when I actually drove my Tesla, the first one I drove a Tesla, I rented it on in California. And the thing was, I knew that right now the market share of EVs is like 2 to 3%. And I know it's going to go to 100%, and I believe that Tesla will remain the leader in that space. Since most of the market did not believe that and thought it was actually going to go out of business just a couple of years ago, it gave me an edge, and it was one of the stocks that have done very well for me among many stocks so far. So that kind of edge is what I recommend, is find stocks that have battlegrounds, that there are two people basically with complete different sets of minds, one thinking that it's going to do well, one thinking it's going to do bad. Maybe there's a lot of short interest in the stock. And if you pick the right side, whether it's going to go down or it's going to go up, it doesn't always have to go up, but you pick the side that's right, where there's a lot of friction, you're going to make a lot of money. Now, I know a lot of you had questions that you submitted in the pre-introduction video. We're going to go over the comments now. I have this iPad here so I can read your comments, answer them for you. All these comments were basically submitted in advance in the pre-introduction video. So let's get to it. We have Redline99. How much did you start with investing? What returns have you made over the years? So I started with just a couple $100, then it became a couple $1,000. I've added to it over time from when I was a teenager until now. So I started with basically nothing in the account, and as I made money throughout life, I kept adding to it. So there was no just set big lump sum that went in one day, and that's where I started. As far as returns, every account I have is slightly different. The main account, which I kind of use across the board in all my videos, I gave you earlier in this video the returns, but in the last year, I did about 95.74% in the last 12 months. S&P did 31%. Last 2 years, I did 660%, and S&P did 51%. And in the last 3 years, I almost did 800%. I did 796.37%, and the S&P was at 57.21%. So that should give you an idea. I aim always to beat the market, and I think every year I have beat the market. I'd have to look back to see if there were any exceptions. Now, the next comment comes from Safi Wakili. Would like to know what your thoughts on the cannabis stocks and the industry as a whole, short-term, long-term, etc. So I think that the industry, if you watched my 3 stocks I'm buying in September video, I think the industry is a very interesting space. I'm looking to buy a stock in that in the MJ space now. I think in the long run, it's going to pay off very well. I think there's a lot of money to be made in that space over the long run. In the short run, I think it is a high volatile space. It has been volatile for a while because there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of hype. So that comes with volatility. The next question we have comes from Vado or Vado. Did you have a career before you started investing? If so, in what field? So I do have a career, self-employed career even today before I started investing, while I've been investing with retail stores, restaurants, real estate, all different things. But I've never worked for a major corporation or company, if that's what you're asking. I also never went to college, matter of fact, either. So I've always liked to work for myself. Then we have a question from M. Taylor. What are your investment goals? Are you aiming for retirement only, or are you using investment proceeds for other saving goals like real estate, etc.? So my investment goals, I don't have specifically goals. I have the goal in trying to beat the market every year, try to get at least 20% or more per year. And I'm not aiming for retirement. I could retire today if I wanted to. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. So, I don't feel like I'm working. As far as using the proceeds for things like real estate, I don't. I add money to my accounts. I want them to compound and grow as much as they can. And I feel that the market is the best thing I know how to do. Even though I invest in real estate and different things, I don't use the cash from my brokerage accounts for that. I feel I'm better at trading in the markets than I am as a real estate investor. So I let those grow. I don't have any goal for them other than compounding year over year. Next question comes from Thom S. What are your worst investments so far? Do you understand why you made these mistakes looking back or not? It might give us some insight and prevent us from making the same mistakes. So I have not looked back to see what my worst investment has been. Of course, I make bad investments and good ones. The idea is always to make more good investments than you make bad ones. And when you do make a bad one, realize why you did. And the moment you realize it's not the way you thought it would be, cut your losses, move on to the next thing. I kind of talked about that earlier, but it's important across the board. As far as, some stocks that I probably haven't done great on, that I cut my losses on, I could give you, if I think back to it, probably the worst stock I was in was one that had fraud. It was Lunkin Coffee. I didn't have a lot of it. I had a little bit of it. And I got out before they announced there was fraud, so I didn't take as big of a loss as other people did in that stock. But like any investor, if you invest in a lot of companies, you're going to have some winners, you're going to have some losers. Just hope you have better winners than you have losers. Your winners win more than your losers lose, and you'll do just fine. The next question is from Pergy S. Nice to put a face to the voice. Do you use covered calls, option strategies, or just hold stocks? I do use covered calls. I do use option strategies. I buy calls. I sell calls. I buy puts. I sell puts. I do spreads. I sell puts on stocks that, I want to buy for a cheaper price and I collect the premium. I sell calls on stocks that I have a bunch of shares of and collect premium. Every stock is different. Every trade is different. They all require, a different strategy to get the best and out of what you're looking to do with that stock and that trade. So yes, I do use options plenty. The next thing we have here is from Short D. What is your current portfolio like? Percentage in blue chips, ETF, riskier stocks, options. We are going to be having a future video about my portfolio, so I don't want to get into too much detail about my portfolio, but I will give you a couple hints and previews. First, I mostly like to invest in established companies that are pretty large already, $10 billion market caps or higher. Does that mean that's all I invest in? No, of course I have companies with, $1-2 billion market caps. I have invested in companies like Mogo with $100 million market caps, 300 million or so. So I will invest in anything if I believe it's a good stock to buy, but most of my portfolio are large market caps that have good history behind them and pretty predictable track records. That said, I do, it's not about risky or not. I think that a stock that some people would call a riskier stock to me might be a safer stock if you've done the research and you know about it. I invest in growth stocks more than value stocks, but I find value in growth. The next question we have from Liam, tell us about your worst investments, what went wrong. We kind of went over the worst investments kind of situation. I'll look into try to find what bad investments I made if you guys are definitely interested, and I can throw it in the comments or something after. Then we have from Christian, are you a long-term value investor or both a swing and hold investor? Also, did you make most of your money off Tesla? So the first part of the question, I am a long-term investor. When you say long-term value, some value investors would not call me a value investor since I'm more a growth investor than a value, but I find value in growth. So when I'm investing in a growth company, the fundamentals may not look great today, but based on my prediction and assumptions going forward, to me, it's a good value of what I think is going to come true over the next couple of years. So, but I am a long-term investor. I don't invest in stocks that I think are going to pop in the next couple months or something like that. I invest with the hope that I'll make money in the short run, but with the idea that I'm going to hold the stock, for 3, 5, 10 years. So definitely long-term. The second part, did you make most of your money off Tesla? So I have made a lot of money off Tesla. It is probably the best single trade I've made. Now, I've made a lot of money off many stocks over many, many years. I was investing for a good amount of years before I ever bought Tesla. So, total money, I don't know. But as far as a single trade, definitely the most profitable single trade I made because I went very heavy in Tesla when I really built up my conviction, and it paid off extremely well. And I still hold a lot of Tesla, so very, very happy with that trade. The next question comes from The Prestige. What made you want to start a YouTube? So I started a YouTube channel because I've been basically doing the research anyways, and I send, my stock picks and different things to basically my friends in group chats, and I've seen how it affected them, following some of my trades, the money they've made that they wouldn't have probably made if I didn't send those, they didn't see my research or hear what I had to say about it. And I figured if someone's going to put the time to watch this video and listen to what I have to say, I'm already doing the research. I might as well put it out if I can help anyone. I just want to add value to you guys. The next question we have comes from Sadir GB. How can we do what you've done in the next 5 years? So I said a little bit about this earlier in the video. I think the most important thing you need to do is build some cash flow. If you need to pull money out of your brokerage account to pay for your bills, then that's the first thing you need to figure out. First, pay off any debt you have. If there's high interest debt on credit cards, things like that, you don't want that. Pay that off. Find something, whether, invest in yourself first. That's going to be better than any other investment you can make. If you invest in yourself and you build your own business and you get some cash flow out of that and you can live off that and you have enough extra money from that business to put into the market, compounding will do the rest. It's about time in the market, not timing the market. So if you can make 15, 20% a year in the market and you're able to be in the market for 5 years, you're going to make a lot of money. So definitely, the longer, 20 years, 30 years, if you're looking for retirement, there's plenty of money to be made through compounding your money. Just make sure you're not pulling your money out of your account to pay your bills. So find your cash flow. That's the best recommendation I could give. The next question comes from Jerry Parker. Please tell us more about your businesses. I have a lot of different businesses, so that could be its own whole video on those, but I have retail stores, I have restaurants, I have lounges, real estate. So that's pretty much the gist of the businesses I have. Most of my time, my main business, where most of my money is allocated, is the market. I trade in public companies, and more recently, the last 2 years, I'm investing in private companies. I like to research companies. I like to find where I believe they're valued at, where I think they'll be valued at in the future, and if they're trading for cheaper than that, that's what I'm good at finding. The next question we have is, have you invested in crypto? This came from Ramachandra, and the answer is yes. I have invested in crypto in multiple ways. In the past, I used to own a ton of Bitcoin before it exploded. I wish I still held all of it, but I didn't. I made some money. I sold the first time it ever hit. It was like 20,000 or so. It hit 19,000 and change or something like that. I sold a lot of it right around there, like 18,900, 19,100, something like that. I pretty much sold almost all of it. And then I didn't look at it for a while. I think Bitcoin dropped to like 3,000 or something. I bought a little bit when I saw it around there, 3, 4, 5,000 a pop. And I still hold some Bitcoin. I hold some Dogecoin. I hold some Ethereum. I hold some Cardano. So I hold a few different cryptos today. but I'm more, not so much as far as dollar amounts compared to, I have a lot of stocks that are invested heavily in crypto, whether it be like Tesla having crypto on the balance sheet by owning Bitcoin, or Mogo or Robinhood stock, where people basically, crypto dictates how people react on their platforms, what the transactions they're doing. So I have some correlation to crypto even through public stocks I own. And yeah, that's pretty much, that kind of is all the questions, I believe. I think I answered all of them that were commented in that last video. I appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you've made it to the end, please smash the like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, definitely subscribe. We're going to be putting a lot of research videos out. And when we hit 2,000 subs, we are giving away the AirPods, which you could see all about that in the giveaway video, which I'll put in the description as well. Again, thanks so much for watching. Until next time.